Hi, welcome to Gallery Teachers Masterclass. My name is Walton Burns, and I'm going to be talking about drama in the classroom. So I'm going to be talking to you about how to use drama in the classroom, particularly plays and theater games that will improve students' abilities to speak naturally in English. And I'm going to be talking a lot about pragmatics, which is a kind of set of unspoken rules about how we communicate. It's sometimes called a secret language or a hidden grammar of conversation. These are the rules that determine when we need to be polite, when we need to be less polite, when it's appropriate to use humor, what kinds of things are funny and not funny in different situations, um, and even things like how do we apologize successfully or how do we persuade someone to our point of view. And of course, these pragmatics rules are social and cultural, so they vary from country to country, culture to culture, even context to context. So it's very important that our students learn these kinds of rules in an English speaking world in a different context from their usual context. Now, in the classroom, we focus a lot on grammar and vocabulary, and students spend a lot of time avoiding mistakes. It's sort of their prime goal in the classroom, it seems sometimes. And of course, our level of communication is less culturally determined. It's very direct. Everybody says what they mean, and they mean what they say. Um, but this is a kind of simplistic description of most of the spoken communication we do in the world, especially in contexts where relationships matter. If we're socializing with friends, if we're working on a team at school or at work, um, if we're dealing with people of higher or lower rank than us, then it's more than just literal direct communication and avoiding mistakes. We need these pragmatics rules. Even a fairly simple situation still relies on these hidden rules. This conversation is very simple grammar and it's all correct, very simple vocabulary, but something has gone wrong, right? Um, First of all, flight attendants are there to offer you things. They're not there to quiz you and make you feel bad about yourself, right? Um, but that's what the flight attendant has done. Her question should mean, would you like apple juice or orange juice? It shouldn't mean, guess which one I have. Wrong. Now, this kind of conversation would be appropriate in a different context. If it was a classroom and it was students playing a guessing game, this would be totally normal. Or maybe friends playing some kind of quiz game or a test. But for this context, this kind of conversation is breaking the pragmatics rules. And another thing to note is that the only reason this joke, this meme is possible is that in customer service interactions, and I would say particularly in the United States, for example, we prefer quick, efficient communication. So the flight attendant's question, apple juice or orange juice, it's an abbreviated question. But we don't mind because we know she's very busy. She has a lot of people to serve. We're very busy. We want our drink and then we want to get back to what we're doing. So we accept this abbreviated question. If this were a five-star restaurant or a business meeting with very important VIP people, she would ask a much longer, more polite question. Would you like apple juice or orange juice? Can I offer you something to drink? Perhaps apple juice or orange juice? So context really determines what's appropriate as much as just grammar or vocabulary. So finally, think about how flight attendants speak. They have a particular intonation. They would say something like apple juice or orange juice. And that intonation indicates that you have options, but you could also say no, or you could ask for something else like water. Um, it would be very odd um, for this interaction to occur where you ask for water and the flight attendant says, no, I said apple juice or orange juice. Those are your options. Um, so our intonation, the way that we speak, is also an important factor in making meaning. Um, but our poor students really do have to learn correct grammar and vocabulary, right? And they're trying to do all of this in a foreign environment. So, how can we help them learn these pragmatics rules on top of everything else? Well, I think drama is a very powerful tool for this. What is a play or a drama sketch? It's characters using words in socially appropriate ways to get things done, to overcome obstacles and achieve an objective. And that's really what we want our students to be doing. What do actors do? They use their voice, their bodies, their faces to make it sound like they're having a real conversation in the moment, not just reciting something they've memorized. Well, isn't that what we want our students to be able to do, to sound more like fluent speakers by using all of the communication tools available to them? Um, and drama has a number of advantages. It's the only written text that is meant to be spoken out loud, except arguably poetry. So students have all the benefits of a text that's written down. They can read it, reread it, memorize it, mark it up. But it reflects natural conversational spoken English in vocabulary, grammar, and also all of these pragmatics rules that we're discussing. Drama is also wonderful because students have the script. They already know what they're going to say. So they really can focus on how to say it. They can focus on their voice and their intonation and their bodies and faces. And what happens if I just say that a little bit differently? What does that change? And they can also focus on, why is my character saying this? Why is my character using this particular rhetorical strategy and not another one? And what's the impact? Drama is also a very safe practice because students are playing a role. It's not them that's speaking. So if they make a mistake, it's their character that made that mistake. They feel much more free, I find, to sort of ham it up, exaggerate, and really play with language, which is why they're called plays. Not really. And finally, a good play is engaging. It's usually a great work of literature. It's interesting. And it's also very satisfying, even if it's a short skit. If students can act in English, that's quite an accomplishment. So it's very motivating and engaging to do drama as well. So let's take a look at how you might incorporate drama into the classroom. Now, this is a short script written for English language learners. And now in the classroom, I would have students first read it. We would go over the vocabulary and the grammar, make sure they understand everything. But of course, colloquial language is often fairly low level, believe it or not, probably because we're thinking about all of these social pragmatics rules while we're talking. And once they're comfortable with the language, I would have them just do a cold read, and they can read and perform the script in small groups. And then we would talk about the pragmatic social issues. Um, so this is a script about making an apology. B has done something wrong. They've missed an important meeting and let A down. And A wants an apology. Now, in real life, if you were going to confront someone and say, I want an apology from you, you would think about certain questions, probably unconsciously, but you would think about them. So I'm going to ask students to think about those same questions consciously. So I would put students in pairs and I would ask them to take a look at the script and think about, what do they think the context is? Where are these people? What might be going on around them? Who are these people? What do we know about them? Their status, their relationship, anything else, their past history. What do both of them want out of this conversation? How important is this apology? How important is it to avoid a conflict? Which is, our teaching materials often neglect this area of relationship building, but a lot of how we choose to speak to other people has to do with, how important is this relationship to me? How aggressive will I be? Or how conciliatory will I be? And they can think about, how sincere are these people? And how upset are they? So students can go make decisions about those things in pairs. And I always tell students, there's no one right answer. There's probably some wrong answers, but there's no one right answer, right? And then the students will perform the script and will discuss how their answers to those questions has affected their performance. So just to give you a taste of this, I'm going to read the script 2 ways, and you'll get an idea of how it changes. So let's say the first time, let's assume A and B are pretty good friends. They work together a lot on different projects, so the relationship is valuable. So A is upset, but he doesn't want to lose B as a friend. And B really does feel bad hurting A. So B is actually fairly sincere. So it might sound something like this. Where were you yesterday? In the library. In the library? What were you doing in the library? I had a test, I told you. No, you said you were coming to the meeting. What meeting? You don't remember? You mean English club? Isn't that next week? Nope, it was yesterday. Oh, you told me it was next week. No, I didn't. I was sure you did. Dude, you let me down. Sorry. Yeah, right. No, really. I should have put an alert on my phone. I had to do everything myself. Okay, okay. I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. Sure? No, really. Next time, I'll be there. Do you promise? I promise. Okay. Just don't do it again. I won't. So that's one reading. But we can also look at it from another point of view. We could imagine that B is very irresponsible and always does this, letting people down, and doesn't really care. He's just one of those people who's a little bit self-centered. And A has kind of had it with B. So A is not afraid to be a little more aggressive. This dialogue might sound a little bit different. It might sound something like this. Where were you yesterday? In the library. In the library? What were you doing in the library? I had a test. I told you. No, You said you were coming to the meeting. What meeting? You don't remember. Oh, what? You mean English club? Isn't that next week? Nope. It was yesterday. Oh, well, you told me it was next week. No, I didn't. Oh, well, I was sure you did. Dude, you let me down. Sorry. Yeah, right. No, no, really, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I should have put an alert on my phone. I had to do everything myself. Okay, okay, I'm really sorry. Won't happen again. Sure. No, really. Next time I'll be there. Do you promise? Oh, I promise. Just don't do it again. I won't. It's a very different reading. B is kind of borderline sarcastic at points, and A gets really, really worked up. Um, and this is important because it's important for A and B's relationship. If this was a real, if these were real people, A probably would not ask B for another favor, and B better not ask A for any kind of favor. It has real impacts that to be able to pick up on these social cues of how sincere or angry or insincere someone is. So it can be a lot of fun to have students play the scenes out in different ways and discuss the different ways that they are delivering the lines and the reasoning behind that. And we can also look at some of the moments in the dialogue, which kind of tell you something about the structure. The opening, if a friend comes up to you and says, "Where were you?" It often feels like a neutral question. Maybe they just want to know what you're doing. But if they sound angry, it can put you on the defensive. Where were you yesterday? In the library. Why? What's going on? What's wrong? What did I do? I didn't do anything. Um, and then if the first person kind of your friend pursues this, what do you mean you were in the library? Um, it can make you even more defensive. And this is often how dialogues escalate, right? And now both of them are mad at each other, and B still doesn't know why, and A still doesn't know that B just forgot. Um, so these kind, it's an important sort of rhetorical technique to be aware of these things and how you can make a dialogue escalate or a situation de-escalate. Um, and the actual apology moment is interesting because A uses this word dude, which is an expression of affection between friends. It's a very American word, I think. Um, in England, it might be mate. um, but if you've noticed at the beginning, they're talking about, well, you didn't tell me. Well, maybe you told me, maybe you didn't tell me. And then A kind of cuts through that and says, dude, my friend, buddy, the point is that you let me down. You did a hurt to me. That's what really matters here. And that's very common when we're asking for an apology. We have to establish a reason why people should apologize to us, and we should appeal to the relationship. And if B apologizes sincerely, like in the first reading, oh, sorry, then the healing can sort of begin from there. Um, so that's sort of an important moment to recognize in these kinds of dialogues. And in again in many English speaking countries, just ask an apology alone often isn't sufficient. You also have to repair. You have to show that you are going to fix the problem or prevent it from happening in the future. And so B does that. How sincerely is another question. But B says, no, next time, you know what I'll do? I'll put an alert on my phone and I won't forget because I understand the problem. And so that's a very important step in the giving an apology script. especially between friends. And this is just one context and one relationship. We could imagine this going differently if this was not to college students. Maybe it's a work training, and this is a more formal environment. Maybe one of these people is the boss. Maybe B is the boss of A. That really changes the dynamic. Or maybe what they're apologizing for isn't just missing a meeting, it's crashing the car, or it's having a big party and wrecking the house. That is also going to change the dynamic and how the delivery should happen. So from there, we can do a few things with script in class. We can look at sort of big picture macro analysis. We can look at language. What are some things we say when we apologize? And you can mine these from the script. You can elicit from students. I love to use podcasts and YouTube channels where you get people speaking fluently and unscriptedly, because that really gives you an idea of fluent colloquial language. And when you're collecting this language, you want to have students analyze it in terms of the things we just said. It's not just about having a giant list of ways to say I'm sorry. As we've discussed, what you say is determined by who you're talking to and what the situation is. So we might talk about if you say something like, "Oh, whoops, my bad." When do we say that? Well, that's a fairly informal thing to say, and it means you haven't done something very bad. You wouldn't say, "Oops, my bad. Sorry that I destroyed your car and wrecked your house. Sorry, my bad." It's not enough. And on the other hand, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I feel terrible about this whole thing. I never wanted this to happen." That's more, maybe not more formal. It's more polite, and it's bigger stakes, right? It would be very strange to say, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to eat the last piece of pizza from the box. I know you're probably going to be a little bit hungry." So when you're collecting this language, you want to look at how it's employed. What are the social rules around using it? We can also talk about strategy. And we discussed a little bit about that in the play. A really tries to establish why they want an apology. So A is pretty direct, but sometimes we're a little more passive aggressive. If it's a boss or someone higher status or a sensitive situation, we might be a little more indirect about how we bring up the thing we want the person to apologize for. And there's different strategies for apologizing. When we apologize, we don't want to lose face. We don't want to say, "I'm sorry, I'm a terrible human being." So we might be more defensive. Well, sorry, but you should have told me. It's really your fault, honestly. It's a sort of more defensive strategy. So we can look at the ways that people do that, do apologize. And a great way to do that is to do kind of a reverse outline of a scene. Just look at what are the different rhetorical moves that the speakers make in the scene, and why are they saying that? Why are they doing that? Why did A say, "Dude, you let me down"? Because he wants B to understand. And later A says, "I had to do everything myself." Again, establishing the reason for the apology. And then we can also look at smaller picture language, such as sentence level utterances, and talk about intonation and how we deliver lines and how it affects the meaning, which we touched on a little bit. But a great exercise is just, and this can be a standalone activity, is just to have a line from the play or a line that people say a lot in real life, like, "I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. And take some different attitudes or emotions that line can be delivered with. So sincerely, sarcastically, frustrated, sad. With lower level students, you might say happy, sad, mean, right? And students can take turns delivering the line with an intonation. And then the rest of the group has to guess how they're saying it and then what the kind of situation might be. So if I say, oh, I'm really sorry. Yeah, it won't happen again. I'm being pretty sarcastic. And of course, that means that I mean the opposite of what I'm saying. I'm not sorry. It's definitely going to happen again. And that might be because I don't think you have a real problem. I don't think I've really done anything wrong. Or it might be a joke. You know me, I'm always doing crazy things. Definitely not going to do that again. Well, I really am, because I'm just that kind of person. On the other hand, I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. That's sad and probably sincere. And so obviously I've caused some sort of large harm to you. We had a big group work project and I just didn't do my part, and I let the whole group down, and I feel terrible about it. And we can also look at grammar in terms of pragmatics, meaning, because grammar does have meaning. Too often we teach grammar as a set of mathematical rules, but grammar has meaning to it. Reported speech is a great example of something we teach mathematically. To move from direct speech to indirect speech, you just change the verbs, move them in the past one step, change the time and the pronouns, and you're done. In real life, we very rarely just recite a whole conversation word for word, right? We don't say every single thing that everybody said. We pick and choose, we summarize, we choose what we're going to focus on. And so there's room for us to put our opinion in to the reported speech. So if we look at option one, you said you were coming to the meeting. It's fairly neutral. Now, we don't know your exact words, but I'm just saying, hey, that's what I heard you say. Fairly neutral. But if I want to save face, I don't want to be too direct, I might say it differently. I might say, well, you had said that you were going to come to the meeting. That's a little more hypothetical, right? So I'm giving you an out. Well, maybe I misunderstood. Maybe you changed your mind. But you had said that, and let's see what's going on there. And by contrast, the last one, where I'm actually doing direct speech, is much more confrontational. You told me, of course I'll be there. Those were your exact words, and you can't argue with your own words, right? So we can talk about the way we choose the grammar we use. One great rule of thumb is that in general, the more complicated and hypothetical the grammar, the more polite, distant it is. And the shorter and simpler, the more direct and to the point it is. That's always something you can kind of look for in a script. And finally, the sort of end game of all this is to really have students apply the skills that they've learned, the speaking skills and the pragmatics analytical skills they've learned, apply it to their real life by doing a short role play. They might write it, or it might just be an improvisation. And ideally, it should be something meaningful to their lives, something they might actually use. So if we've been doing a script about apologizing, I might ask students to think about, when do you have to make apologies in your life? What are some things that you apologize about? Whom do you apologize to? What's the relationship? what are the stakes? What are you apologizing for? Um, and what are your goals when you're apologizing? Do you just want to get forgiven and move on? Do you um, want to have some kind of redemption? Is it more important to preserve the relationship and make the other person feel good? And students can go from there and create little scenes where, again, they're applying all these skills their to their real life. So drama becomes an almost kind of reality simulator where they can practice real life language skills. I just wanted to remind you of the gallery teacher workshops uh, as a great source of continuous professional development. The website is up there, galleryteachers.com/ELT workshops. Thank you so much. Natural speaking skills refers to the skills or tools that fluent speakers of a language use to communicate in social settings. For a variety of reasons, our classroom materials often focus on grammar and vocabulary and getting the right words, but sometimes they neglect the way that we use our voices, our intonation, our word stress, as well as body language, facial expression, to also make meaning and be effective communicators in a natural, authentic context. Drama is a powerful tool for teaching effective communication skills for a number of reasons. Um, First of all, a drama, a play, really is a set of characters using their communication skills in order to overcome obstacles, achieve a goal. And on the way, they're very often having to compromise, to react to other people, to take other people's points of views into account. And that's really what real life is about, right? Is we are most of our time is spent trying to use our words to get what we want out of life, and also to interact with other people and help them get what they want out of life. And one of the wonderful things about drama in the classroom also is that because you have a script which is written down, but meant to reflect spoken language, students can have all the benefits of a written text. They can analyze it, read it, reread it, memorize it. But at the same time, it's going to sound like natural, authentic spoken language.